Oh gosh. Well, before we dive on in, let's go ahead and go over some housekeeping items. First, I have you all on mute. If you could also place yourself on mute, that would be great. It will just help us avoid any type of background noise or other things that we have to worry about. As we go through this webinar together, my goal is to make it really interactive. We're all in this situation together. And while I have experience working from home, I'm sure there's experts amongst us, if that makes sense. And so throughout this, across the bottom, you'll see a chat function. And a lot of you are already using it, but I will prompt with open-ended questions as we go. And I really want you all to share some best practices. And when the time's right, I will make it that you all can see that. You're also going to be asked some polling questions throughout this, so you can't see anything yet, but when they come up, please answer those as well. Ultimately, just please participate. We learn best when we learn together and from each other, and that's the whole point of today. Oh, 1 second. There we go. So thank you all. Thank you all so much for attending this complimentary webinar today. My name is Danny Kowalczyk, and I manage the training department here at Aaim. I work with almost all of our member companies on helping them identify learning opportunities that they want to make available to their staff. And I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. Times are strange, and with the global pandemic happening, with the global pandemic of the coronavirus happening, as a result, many of us are working from home. And in a world where I have a million different acronyms going through my head almost every minute of every day since this all started, the one we're going to focus on today is WFH, work from home. By attending today, I hope that I leave you with practical tools to stay productive during this time. I hope I can help you use tools to reduce anxiety and return to normalcy as quickly as possible. We all know that working from home can be a blessing and a curse. So for those of us that have never done this before, you might feel a little nervous, and I'm looking to gain feedback. So let's try this poll thing out. How many of you are feeling nervous? And let's just take a minute for you all to respond, and we'll go from there. Wow, you guys are on it. Almost everyone. Waiting for a few of you stragglers. We'll see if we get any more. All right. So here's the results. Hopefully you can see them. Are you nervous? Some of you are freaking out. Most of you are a little nervous, and some of you are cool as a cucumber, which I hope you're my active participators today, because that's what we could use a little bit of right now. If you're feeling nervous or anxious, that's absolutely expected. Oh, hang on, let me actually share the results with you all. So hopefully you can see those now. If you're feeling nervous and anxious, that is expected, and it's completely okay. Change will always make us a little nervous, and we have a lot of that going on. Our world is completely different than it was 1 week ago. Our businesses are most likely having completely different conversations than they were. We may have loved ones that might be affected by this. Here we go. We don't even know if we're going to have enough toilet paper. So being a little nervous about the change that's going on is normal. What we can do and what we can control is how we focus on handling these changes. And we're being forced to, despite our will, to work in a way that we can still have a positive impact in the midst of a completely different workspace. So I just want to, rest assured, work is work. And contrary to what we might have believed in the past about remote work, we know today that we can get things done at home. Work is work no matter where you're working on the map. So as long as you're working, you're doing your best. Moving on though, there's many benefits of working from home, and I have a whole list I can share with you. I've been brainstorming once we decided we wanted to do this topic, but go ahead and let's take a moment to consider some advantages of working from home and focus on the positive. Utilize that chat function. Several of you are already doing it, and I am going to go ahead and move this over so we can share results, but I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to start answering some advantages of working from home. I have 2 monitors, so if I'm looking over here, that's that's why, so I can see what you guys see. Oh yeah, yep, a lot of saving money, no gas, no traffic, you can work in your PJs. You're supporting the isolation. I mean, that's outstanding. That's true. Talk about social responsibility. Absolutely. You know, you're being more productive, you're staying connected. You can have snacks. Someone wrote that. Someone says they feel safe, they have flexible work hours. Wake up naturally instead of an alarm. Maybe wake up to the light shining through your window. I don't know what your personal spaces are, but maybe that's an option. No rush hour traffic. We feel safe. So yeah, that's great. Thank you, everyone, again, for keeping this as lively as possible. That's what we want in this conversation. So great job. You know, I went ahead and I put together some advantages of working from home, and it's a lot of what you all said. So obviously, you have flexibility in your schedule. You have a custom environment because it was designed by you, hopefully, maybe. Um, you know, you can wear comfortable clothing. It's easier for you to make calls potentially. You can get a few things done around the house, you know, put in a load of laundry on your break or whatever it might be. You don't have distractions from the office. You save gas. There's no traffic. There's no crowds. You have more time for your family and friends. You know, I added one on here, room for introspection and ideas. Sometimes just when we're in the office, it can feel chaotic, and you have plenty of time to to work from home and have some ideas and think creatively. Quiet time and saves money. So thank you all. Now that we've focused on the positives, let's dive in. So we have an understanding of the benefits, and I would like to share my top 10 tips for working from home. The first one for me is creating a designated workspace. So when transitioning from working in an office to your home, it's crucial that you identify a workspace that's going to work for you and allow you to stay focused. Spaces when you're working from home vary, but it has to be a consistent spot. Spaces might range from an in-home office, a spare bedroom, a dining room, a seat at the kitchen table, a seat at the kitchen counter, maybe even your couch if you need to. But there's a few elements to consider what to do with your space to help you and not prohibit you from being productive. And with that being said, I want you all, we're going to utilize this chat function again. So take a moment to consider what your workspace should include to help you be successful, and share your thoughts in the chat. And Madonna, I see a question from you. Did you have a question? And we got it all resolved here. So thank you. All right, and then let me share. Comfy chair, avoid neck strain, outlets, coffee, that's a must for me, computer access, natural lighting, peace and quiet. Lamp, printer, scanner. File area, ability to close the door. That's my big one. Multiple screens, additional monitor if you can, designated office spot, all the things mentioned. Puppies. I have a puppy named Barb for anyone that's interested, and she's with me every day that I'm working home, but she can't be with me on phone calls because she snorts. So those are all good things. As a rule of thumb, your workspace should have the essentials. For me, the most essential piece of a workspace is a chair. And one that I'm not going to be so relaxed in that I could fall asleep, but one that provides really good back support, especially when I'm not used to sitting all day. Other than that, for my job, internet and outlets, appropriate lighting are essentials. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you have your space, and through this, I think the goal is to even create a space that makes you feel inspired and motivated. So while that might not be where we start on day one, as we go through this process and this time, start thinking, okay, I have a physical space, but what's going to make me feel good about sitting here every day? And sometimes it's the physical things that matter. For me, another thing that a lot of you mentioned was, potentially avoiding distractions. Well, in today's environment, for me to work, I can't be in a room where there's a TV and the news running on repeat. But I also might feel stifled sitting in my spare bedroom that is all blank walls right now because I haven't had a chance to decorate it yet. But just realize we're in a fluid situation, and your workspace will be fluid as well. And just continuously evaluate what will make you happy and productive. Moving on to tip number 2. This is my favorite one. Set boundaries with the people you live with. Easier said than done, right? For many of you working from home, that might mean that you're working now with your roommates. You're working with your spouse. There's several memes about that on the internet that are hilarious. You might be having to balance, working, but also having your kids say, I'm so bored, give me something to do. And they just might not understand what's going on. So one thing I really recommend is having a sit down with your family or your roommates or anyone else that you might be living with, and just explain to them the situation. An example of this that I've done in my own personal workspace is I have a spare bedroom at my house that I sit in at my desk, and my husband and I have a code because we're on opposite schedules, and when he comes in the morning, he's just wanting to talk, and I have to say, no, I'm in the office. This is my office. So we have a code, and it came out of us having a boundaries conversation. When I'm in the office, I am at work. When the door is open, he can bring something quick to me. When the door is shut, I am on a call and I cannot talk to you right now. So I am in a meeting, someone else is here. It takes a lot, especially if you live with someone that might not be in a professional office environment every day, but it's still important to lay that down. So my question for you all listening is, for those of you that have set boundaries, what tips do you have for the rest of us? And please share your thoughts in the chat function. And I'm going to move this over so you all can see it as well. So that's a great one. I mean, don't be afraid to put a do not disturb sign on your door if needed. Close the door. That's what I do. Maybe having a separate room. Must knock before coming in. I like that. Yeah, that's fair. Yep. And do it up front, right? We can't go through this whole change and not have a conversation about it. So, yeah. Banish your kids to a 10 house. It's my time later. We will talk. Yep. These are all good. Yeah, I like that point too, that you have to make sure, especially for those of you with children, if you and your spouse or someone else that you live with can tag team this a little bit. Depending on their ages, they would probably really appreciate that at a time like this. Communicate your daily agenda when you have an important call. Plan ahead. Yep, making sure that every person is taken care of, and we'll get into that a little bit. Well, great. These are all great. Thank you for participating. I feel like we have that one covered, so we're going to jump on into tip number 3. I don't know if anyone else is hungry, but this picture always makes my stomach growl, so if you hear that, sorry. But tip number 3 is establish a morning routine. To get back to normalcy as quickly as possible, it's really important to set a routine for yourself. Obviously, a routine is something that we do over and over again to help us flip the switch in our brain to work mode. For some of you, it's possible that your morning routine doesn't need to change that much. For some of you, working from home could be a great time to set a morning routine. It might be something as simple as every day I'm going to wake up at 7 and have a cup of coffee. It might be your time to say I'm going to start waking up at 6 and I'm going to do a workout and walk the dog or whatever else it might be. Whatever it is, it's important that it's crucial and it's consistent, so you don't get swallowed up by your surroundings. So for those of you that have a routine established and are already working from home, what does it look like? Give us some ideas for what you're doing and maybe even what you're doing to jumpstart your day instead of hitting the snooze button on your alarm. Coffee and breakfast. Love the book. Yeah, exercise. Even with the reading the Bible, there's so many apps out there now to start your day with meditation. Whatever your beliefs might be. Some people are starting their day with just 2 minutes of silence, taking it all in, breathing through it. Making coffee the night before. I just started doing that, and it has helped a lot with my morning routine. Shower and breakfast. Yoga, stretching, get up, get dressed. Perfect. Great. For those of you that have it established, that's great. And for those of you trying to start, another thing I'd recommend is once you are committed to a routine, write it down. And place it somewhere public. Put it on your refrigerator. Put it in your mirror without you're using getting ready. Work through it, and commit to it. So, all right. Moving on to tip number 4, eat the frog. I'm not going to lie to you, this analogy grosses me out. But when I think about the most critical parts of my day and the things that I'm least looking forward to doing, it works for me. So Mark Twain once said that if you had to begin every day by eating a live frog, you could get through the rest of the day with the satisfaction knowing that might be the worst thing to physically happen to you that day. A frog is your biggest, most important task that you are most likely to procrastinate doing. The analogy of eating a frog comes from the book Eat the Frog by Brian Tracy. If you're not a reader, he has several YouTube clips on how to be productive. You could also order his ebook. Might be something else to do with some downtime we might be facing. But his whole theory is if we start our days by doing the thing we're least excited to do, we'll get the most living out of our lives. This concept requires a lot of discipline. You first have to identify your frog, tackle it first thing, and work it until it's done. The concept also lends nicely with tip number 3 for those of you paying attention and following along of establishing a morning routine. So Brian Tracy argues that if we can commit to doing this first thing, we'll establish long-term best practices. So what's your frog? Tomorrow's a Saturday, so it's probably something we can all relate to, and go ahead and share that in the chat. Laundry. That's my frog too.
That was, I was just getting ready to take that.
Cleaning the house, filing, making the bed, dishes. Working out. That's sometimes my frog too. Yep. Meal prepping. Yeah. So we all have our frogs, everything. I don't know, set an intention right now. Promise yourself you're going to eat the frog tomorrow morning and see what happens. See how much better you might feel at 3 p.m. Tomorrow, of knowing that weight was lifted and that it's already done. Tip number 5, it goes with time management as well. It lends itself nicely to that, but finish with the quick wins. What I mean by this is, and especially when we work from home, we reach this point in our brain around 3 p.m. or 4 where it's quitting time. And it can be really hard to focus when you're the only one working on this project together and you don't have access to everyone else. So a game I play when I'm fighting that quitting time feeling is I ask myself, what else could I possibly get done today that is quick and easy and will make me feel better about starting my day tomorrow? In my role, that might be sending an email. It might be scheduling conversations with other coworkers that I need to have, but I'm not quite ready to do that yet. Might be creating surveys. It might be cleaning up contracts or doing anything that just feels a little bit mindless to me. We're sticking with the theme here. Commit to it. What is a quick win for you that if you completed it today, before you went home on this Friday evening, what could you do that you will feel better starting Monday? You have 1 hour after this webinar, so let's commit to something. And go ahead and share that in the chat. Yeah. That works. And sometimes it's just making a to-do list, saying, I don't know that I can even, I'm at that point in the brain that I can process everything I have to do, but I can at least make a to-do list to keep me on track the next day. Replying to emails, running daily stats, 5S your desk. Love that. Love that lean response, Beth. You're all gonna find out really quickly that I'm not a fast reader. So yeah, these are all great. Share this webinar. There's an overachiever on the line. Just kidding. I would love if you shared this webinar afterwards. Reviewing next day's schedule. If you have a to-do list, that could be your quick and easy thing at the end of the day. Yeah. Make sure everything you set out to do got completed. These are great. All right. So tip number 6 also is on the lines of time management, but it's so critical when you're having to be responsible for yourself. So tip number 6 is to time block. When we are in our regular work environment, and I am so guilty of this, the theory of time blocking isn't always practical. We can regularly be interrupted or more pressing matters emerge, and we are told to, switch and pivot and do that instead of whatever we thought that we were actually going to do that day. But time blocking, for those of you that don't know, is being very strategic, and intentional with the time that we have in a day. At the beginning of the week, you look at your week, you decide what you want to work on. It's more of a general concept at how you lay out your tasks overall. Time blocking also helps with batching our tasks. And what I mean by this is when we're wearing multiple hats, like most of us are right now, we want to think about how we do things by grouping them together. So if I am working on creating this PowerPoint, I don't want to start one slide and then answer 5 emails about something else and then come back to this. I want to say, okay, from this time to this time, I'm giving myself permission to do and finish what I said I was going to do. If you're a salesperson, that might look like, okay, I'm going to return all my voicemails from 8 to 9. I'm going to answer emails from 9 to 11. I'm going to do outbound work from 2 to 3. It doesn't have to be perfect when you start, but you just have to start somewhere. And tips for your first day of time blocking, because of course, the theme of this is you'll be challenged with something. So, just backing up, when we're working from home, we have this as a luxury. We're not constantly getting interrupted by people. So the theory behind this can really work. Tips to get this going. 1, start with just one day on your next week. If you're not doing this at all, start small. Start by blocking out, one day at a time and stick to that plan, even if you don't finish anything. But just try it. Try to remove the distractions and the fires from your workplace and just try to stick with it. Step number 2 kind of lends itself with this, adding a buffer block. What I mean by that is leave space. Don't schedule out at all 8 hours. Leave space to say, this PowerPoint was actually going to take me 4 hours and I didn't know. So I worked on it from 9 to 11. I worked on it when I said I was. I gave myself 3 to 4 as an extra hour in the day. I'll use that time to go try to finish that. Consider your natural energy is tip number 3. So we're not robots and we're not all wired the same way. Our energy isn't high all the time. And it's really important to think about when you're most energetic in a day. If you're a morning person, start your day with the most critical tasks. If you get more of your fuel after lunch, then make your more complex projects there. But no one can answer that but you. Tip number 4 is to evaluate your day so that you can set better blocks for the next day. So again, stick to that schedule, commit to yourself, stick to that plan. But don't be afraid to then say, okay, now that I know it really takes me more of this amount of time for whatever it is to complete something, I'm going to do that for the next time I time block. So maybe identifying your Monday time block could be your quick win for today. After this webinar, why not try planning Monday? And let's just take a poll to see what you guys think about that. So give me one moment here. Here we go. Okay. Several of you are on it. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let me end that polling. I will share the results with you all so we can see. Only one of you asked, what's time block? So I guess I did a decent job of explaining it. But several of you said you'll give it a try. Why not? What's the harm in that, right? Okay, let me go ahead and stop this share, get this out of the way, and we can move on to tip number 7. So tip number 7, several of you alluded to this earlier. Wear clothes that make you feel your best. As we transition from the office environment to WFH, the temptation will be real as it relates to getting ready in the morning. Personally, in the past, when I rarely worked from home, I was guilty of having the messy hair, no makeup, pajamas. There were some days, I'm not going to lie, my alarm went off at 7:45 and I was on email at 8. Maybe I got a cup of coffee. But I think it's important to be successful at this, to pledge to make that change. So for me personally, I don't feel my best when I'm in a sweatshirt. I really don't feel my best when I'm not wearing mascara. I have really light eyelashes and it makes me feel insecure. So when I work from home, I have to dress and present myself in the casual way that I normally would at Aaim. But I have to think, okay, if I had to leave my house for any reason, I would feel comfortable and confident to be in front of other people based on how I'm presenting myself. We live in a society where you might not necessarily have to have your three-piece suit, but if doing that makes you feel like you're in a regular work environment, have at it. I don't think there's much more to elaborate on this, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So here is another poll for if you're going to dress for success. Will you take my word for it? Will you go for it? Go ahead and submit your responses now. All right.
I'm sending a private.
Okay. So let's see the results. I know you're all at the edge of your seat. Some of you, you have your outfit picked out. That's great. Some of you are just going to try your best. I don't think we can ask for much more than that. Some of you most of you will wear your standard work clothes. So good job. And some of you are saying pajamas forever, which good for you. And just moving the chat over here so you guys can see, Stephanie, that's a good response. If you feel best in comfy clothes and you take a shower, go for it. Do what's good for you. That's all we can do now is our best. And if you're doing that, then we're off to a great start. So, all right, here we go. Tip number 8. Remove distractions. So when working from home, it's almost impossible to not get distracted. And honestly, it's probably why you're on this webinar in the first place. But common distractions might be the news, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, text messages, family phone calls, clutter in your workspace or at your house, wherever that might be, the people you live with. So it's always, we know what to do. We know what to do to be responsible adults. But sometimes it's easy to recommend to others what they should do in order to remove distractions. So share your thoughts in the chat and I will, I'll move this on over so we can all find some humor in this. How do you remove your kids? I don't know. Maybe start by playing hide and seek and just don't go looking for them. I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Communicate with family members with how things are going to look when you're working from home. Turning off social media. Don't answer the phone. Don't sit by the fridge. Maybe don't make your working space in the kitchen if you have a lot of other people living with you. So everyone always wants food. Earbuds. No TV. Yeah. Working just your regular hours. That's a great point too. If you normally work 8 to 5, continue to work 8 to 5. When it's quitting time, shut your laptop or turn off your computer. It's the end of the day, and that's a really great point to stick with consistency. That's from Jessica to everyone. Noise canceling headphones. That's a good one too. Okay. Great. Those are all good suggestions. There's a lot of apps out there now as well that you can literally say, I don't want to access Facebook, social media, if I've already hit an hour of viewing it a day. For me, I physically take my cell phone when I'm intense on a project and I move it to the other room and I let it charge in there, and I might go check it in an hour. But if I have it next to me and it's buzzing nonstop, I'm not getting anything done. So if social media is a concern for you, I would consider researching some social media blocking apps. And that will also just help you stay more productive and focus on what's important. Tip 9, alluded in the chat function last time, take a break. A quote from Psychology Today states that taking breaks refreshes the mind and it replenishes your mental resources and helps you become more creative. If you're working on a project and you might be doing writing or cleaning up your company's data or something that doesn't necessarily have an end in sight, I don't know how else to describe it, but you can easily lose track of time when you're doing that. And in order to keep your energy and your spirits up, make sure you actively schedule breaks for refueling. Set your schedule, and when you're doing all these other time management things, consider when you're going to take a break. All right, which brings us to our last and final tip. Move. Tip number 10 is to move. The human body was not built to sustain sitting at a chair for extended periods of time. Depending on your preferences, anything from stretching to walking in place during your lunch to stepping outside while you're taking a phone call to whatever it might be, you have to move. And it's easier said than done when, just with everything going on, it's easy to sit and watch the news on repeat, but you have to get up, do yourself some good and move. So question for the group, and we're seeing some good tips in here. When and how do you plan to move while working from home? Share your thoughts in the chat. And while you guys are thinking and making those commitments, Patty, I like your comment about the taking breaks, that you take a break at 10 and 3. And I mean, it's important to schedule it in. Running during lunch, walking the dogs, taking a short drive, lockdown, or looking from your window, giving dogs potty breaks, walking outside with them. That's always good. Eating lunch in a different part of the house. Dance party. Love that. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you all checking on the kids, taking a few minutes, pick things up in the area around the house. Throwing in a load of laundry counts as moving. Doing the dishes counts as moving. Again, it's whatever works for you all. There's so many fun things as well outside of just the 8 to 5. I'm not sure if you're seeing what several different gyms are doing, but they are offering 2 weeks of workout classes. I'm not super athletic, but there are some dance classes on there and can be a good activity with the group as well. I made a Faye Feels playlist and I'm going to play it for 10 minutes on my break. There you go. That's great. And then everyone in your house will know you're on break, and then they'll be able to come and ask you questions for whatever it might be. So, the last question there was, will we send these as a follow-up? Yes, I'll get all of these out to you. Ultimately, I don't know what else to say other than you've got this. It's undeniable we're living in strange times, and we're more stressed out than we've ever been. But I'm confident if you follow at least one of these tips, if you do something from here, your work from home life will feel more in balance. Personally, I'm a believer that this will pass. It might not pass as quickly as I want it to, but I do think it will pass. And when it does, the people that can adapt and change their behaviors are going to emerge stronger than they ever were before. Remember to stay healthy during this time. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can reach out to me. Like I said, my name's Dani Kowalczyk. I would love for anyone on this webinar to link in with me. I've been sharing many practical tips on just development as a whole, and I'd love to connect with you to talk more. Not sure if everyone on here is one of our primary contacts at our member at one of our member companies. But if you're not, you might not know about our research and solutions team. And pending that you are a member of Aaim, you get unlimited inquiries to this group of fabulous people where you can ask them for tips, articles, if you are HR, standard policies, things like that. And they are a great just resource for you. We are also at Aaim, I don't know if all of you know about this either, but we're doing morning briefings. And every day, Monday through Friday, we are doing a live broadcast. It's very similar to a radio show. It's with Bert Gartland of Ogletree Deacons and Phil Brandt, the CEO of Aaim. And we are really just providing a source of information for what's going on. We can get so many articles, text messages, new posts about what's happening. And there's not always a lot of explanation around it. So for today, we talked, the broadcast itself covered going more in depth into the FMLA extension for people that have to take care of children. If you didn't get to hear that, all of the recordings are on our website, so you can access them at any point in time. We're also at Aaim, we're getting several inquiries regarding the coronavirus itself, and we're doing our best to field those questions, but just wanted to remind everyone that going to the CDC directly can also be quicker. If you're looking for, sample process flow documents, or what if someone that I know is someone that they know who's someone's brother of someone's cousin, what if, they get it or they know someone that got it. A lot of information on that is there as well. We're happy to help in any way possible, but just wanted to throw that on here as a resource. And even though I might be separating myself from the news at hours at a time, it doesn't mean that I'm not staying aware of the news. For me, Apple News has been a new purchase for me in the App Store, but just stay up to date and have a pulse with what's going on. It's the responsible professional thing to do. So thank you all so much, and we look forward to potentially getting this recording out to you all. And like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.